Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I have been out of town for a while. So I thought I would do an update and just get some things out there because I see that there's a lot of confusion and there's some misunderstandings about what I said and this and that. And I also have some comments about what's going on right now and some things people are putting out there. So first of all, I want to say I was in the UK and I was doing my Wake and Aware conference, which I do every year and even did during COVID. I don't think I missed a year, but I might have missed one. So, just saying that I have braved the elements and traveled when you weren't supposed to, all that kind of stuff. And it's true that I did end up getting tested, which is really bad because it has nanographene oxide in the tests. And sadly, all the Hollywood actors are still being tested, from what I understand, daily when they go on a set, which is insane. But those people are totally woke and insane anyway. So even when they do make good movies, their thinking is not really stellar. So obviously they have been taken in by the big pharma medical establishment, and that's a Nazi construct and goes back to the days of the Nazis and all the experimentation they did on humans and the preparation to get people to accept the dominance over your body that has now come to the fore. And of course, the Nazi paperclip scientists came over. They didn't lose the war, they simply joined the team, you might say. And I know my voice is a little hoarse. I actually caught dysentery when I was in Morocco, only a 7-day trip to Morocco. And that includes the days when we flew to and from. So wasn't in Morocco that long, but it was a fascinating trip. I've been to Morocco before. We went to Marrakesh and really enjoyed ourselves a few years ago. So we decided to try Tangier, which I've always wanted to go to. However, it has changed and it has morphed. And apparently, according to some people we talked to on the streets and knowledgeable individuals, they said they had a terrible time during COVID, that the king was not responsive to understanding what was really going on. So they were locked down, and consequently, it does appear that Sharia law has sort of snuck itself into the mentality of the population of Tangier. And the restaurant owners no longer will serve alcohol with food, which, of course, I guess is some kind of Sharia law thing, some Muslim thing, but it's most unfortunate as far as Westerners are concerned. And puts a damper on things. Now, there are a few restaurants that rebel from that situation, and you have to find them. So we did spend a lot of time investigating. We ended up staying first in the Medina, which had an incredible view all over the water. Just lucked out in actually a relatively low priced place. But because it was in the Medina and because it was kind of kooky, I guess you might say, and very unique. And I have to say that the art in Morocco is fabulous. So back in the 50s and 60s, if you're not aware of this, it was a hangout for people like the Rolling Stones and various people, Jimi Hendrix. I think he moved to Fez back in the day. So there's some very cool Moroccan bars that have photos of, various rock stars and various people who have hung out during the 50s and 60s, artists and famous writers who spent time in Tangier and various areas of Morocco. So Morocco is a beautiful country, and it has lots of lovely mountains, and it also has quite a long coastline. Tangier beaches, not great, but south of Tangier, I understand they're very nice. So we didn't get a chance to go down there. We did go to what's called the Blue City, and that is a Medina of its own in the mountains, kind of obscure and remote, about 2.5 hours outside of Morocco. Tangier, I mean. And unfortunately, it was around 100 degrees. So we had to climb up and down the hills of the little Medina, and it's a walled city, as you may know. And that actually is blue and white. And this is where Arabs and Jews lived together harmoniously. And they painted their houses first blue, which I think symbolizes, if I have this right, maybe heaven to the Jewish faith. And those who are Arab painted the white at the top, and that symbolizes peace, if I remember. And then when you go to the houses and you see them, they're lovely and painted. And maybe I can throw in a few photos here. But bottom line is, the people are delightful. They're doing handicrafts and all that kind of thing. But when you get a blue and white house, that means that they're cohabitating, the Arabs and the Jews together. So they're white on top and blue on the bottom. And it's a really lovely little area. There's a fabulous restaurant there. And I'm not sure I can remember the name of it, but just excellent, excellent food. Had a fabulous time at the restaurant. But walking in the streets, I would not suggest going there in August. It was way too hot. So I almost died from the heat. And what else? Okay, so just saying that, had a lovely time in Tangier. It was quite, a strenuous time. It wasn't super relaxing. We did a lot of walking. You walk up and down hills. It's kind of a hilly city. And we also had to do a lot of investigation to find good places to go. And the 5-star hotels are not 5-star, really. Some of them are really what in America we might call 3.5 to 4 stars. And that's disappointing if you're looking for a really luxury, because we spent a lot of time in the Medina in this sort of low price place. So I wanted to end my trip in like a high point. So I wanted to see how the very modern Tangier lived. We went to the modern part of the city, which is city center. And there are some 5-star hotels there, but you really have to pick and choose and find the right ones. I'm not going to name any names, simply say, be careful, because they are not 5-star the way you might think. And there are tons of families in vacation in August. There are no Westerners. We were like the only Westerners in the whole city of Tangier, pretty much. There may have been a few lone backpackers, but like I was the only, I don't know what if you want to call me, a blonde. I'm sort of a dirty blonde, but I am a blonde, that kind of skin coloring, and there was no one like me. And I love the Arab people. I'm a little unusual that way. As you may know, I have traveled in Egypt in the past, and I lead tours there, and I'm very happy in Egypt. Morocco used to be very much of a cosmopolitan place. Sadly, I can see over COVID, this has somewhat changed. And I think that's really unfortunate. I hope that the king will sort of change the direction of his country and orient it more to be accommodating to the Western tourists, because it is such a wonderful country. So I did enjoy my time there. We both did. And what else can I say about it? Not sure. Some wonderful food. But again, you had to decide where you wanted to eat, because I like to have wine with food if I'm out and sort of going in a tourist thing. So that was very disappointing in some of the restaurants, but then we did find some very cool places. I do want to point out there's a place called, I think it's called the Morocco Club, and it's in the Medina. It's famous. It's actually chosen already as the #1 restaurant, and with good reason. The food is fabulous, and the bar is the place to go. So I wouldn't even go to the restaurant. I would just go to the bar. You can eat in these little tables in the bar. It's very kind of cool and Moroccan, and I can maybe give you a shot of that. I think I put one on my Telegram when I was there, just to give a hint of that. But I really we went to museum and art galleries, and we saw the art is just fabulous. So places that have kept that history going back to the 50s and 60s, and just the sensibility of artists that was really permeated the Moroccan, especially Tangier culture, is just really priceless. So just want to say, okay, so now I want to talk about business kind of thing. Okay, I was going to explain about my voice. So I caught dysentery or bacteria in my intestines, I guess the last day I was there. You get it from like ice that, water hasn't been boiled, that sort of thing. But I've traveled in Egypt and had no problem for years and years. So it was quite shocking to my system. And it lowered my immune system. So I also, on the way back, taking plane after plane as it happened, going first to the UK and then I came back. I have to go by way of Vegas to Reno and then up in the mountains. So it's quite a lot of planes. And that was not great for my system. So I ended up catching some kind of sore throat cold thing. So you still hear it in my voice. And basically got jet lag and slept for 2 days when I came back. But I am on the repair. And so I wanted to come and talk about some things I might not have talked about while they happened while I was gone. Obviously, I did a important, I think, roundtable with Michael Jaco and Nino Rodriguez, and that was fun. And those guys are great. And I really appreciate that opportunity. I was in my little Moroccan place in the Medina doing it from there. Luckily, we had a good internet connection. And we were like the only people in that whole little bed and breakfast kind of place. Because again, not a lot of travelers coming from at least the West. So now I just want to outline a few things here. So we did the Awaken Aware conference, and what we're doing now is, and that was all advertised in advance, and it's at this lovely place with gardens, and it's a manor house, and it's a very small crowd, so it's a great networking event. And we had really a fabulous conference this time. Wonderful speakers. I actually spoke both days, which usually I only speak one. But we had a cancellation, and so I just decided that I never have enough time anyway, and there was so much to cover. So I took that, opportunity to speak at the beginning of the days on both days, and that seemed to go very well. Loved our speakers, just fabulous stuff. So we're going to be putting that out, streaming it, and it will be available for a reasonable price. You can always get like all of the speeches. There's like 4 a day, so like 8 videos normally. And you can purchase them like one at a time, or you can purchase the package, or you can become a member and get it for free. So the members, heads up, if you're already a member of projectcamelotportal.com, my website, then you'll get access to the streaming of my conference that I did in the UK. Obviously, a lot of people, the rest of the world, weren't able to come in person. So this will be a great opportunity to hear what was said there. And like I said, fabulous information. So just wanted to put that out there. So now I also want to say, obviously, the Maui thing happened while I was away. And I consider that, as I have said now repeatedly, I said it on the Awake Nation video that I did on that show, which is a weekly show I often appear on as their guest. I'm like the last guest on that. They do a long show that starts early in the morning and goes late. And I'm like their last guest most Tuesdays. So I did a show I think it was a week ago, and I talk about a little expansion on what I already talked about with Nino and Jaco. But the bottom line is that if you hear this MP3, which Dave Hodges put out, and he had a whistleblower, a Marine called Jamie, and that came out on an MP3, again, on Dave Hodges' website. right after the hit, so to speak. And he explains the layout of the U.S. military in that area and in the Hawaiian Islands in general. And you can't help but see the connection between Pearl Harbor and a direct hit on especially Space Force, which I believe is the Trump Space Force. And then, you know, the other parts of the military. In other words, a direct hit, a sign coming directly from the dark side to the white hats, basically kind of laying their point of view on the line and using directed energy weapons to just decimate that area, which was insane. And then having put in place other sort of situations where no one would get a warning, where children were left in their houses without their parents when the thing hit. And even to this day, we don't know. Different numbers are out there, but some say as many as 2,000 children are still missing. They could have been killed. There's other thoughts that they could have been taken off planet. I have repeatedly said and said before this even happened that there is a major gray ET base under the big island of Hawaii, which is not that far away from Maui, and that anything going on in the tunnels of Maui would actually be transported to the gray ET base under Hawaii. So when you think operations are happening in Maui, I just want you to be aware of that. Now, I've given Juan the heads up, JFK Jr. I've made it very clear, you know, that this is important information. I've had prophetic dreams. They're coming true now. A lot of my dreams are coming true, one right after the other. So you could say, well, who cares or whatever. That's fine. But I just want to say I don't think I'm the only one. Some people are writing to me saying they also knew about the gray ET base. They also knew about the directed energy weapons. Of course, everyone knows that now. Unfortunately, the normies still think that that it's weather. And some people will go as far as to think it's a weather war, and some people think it's a hit so we can have a smart city in the area. I mean, these are like sidelines. And if you do not understand, what does it mean when, like back in the day, we were hit in Pearl Harbor, and that galvanized our military and our people to come out and to support the fight against the Nazis. Fast forward to now, in 2023, and we are fighting the Nazis all over again. If you don't know that, you haven't been following my work. For one thing, you haven't read books like by Jim Marrs, the famous investigative journalist who has passed on since then, and a whistleblower and remote viewer who wrote a book called Jim Marrs, who wrote a book called The Fourth Reich, which is all about how the Fourth Reich moved into the United States and took it over. So we are seeing the sort of display of that in our faces with the Biden regime, the fake Biden. There were 4 Bidens, fake Bidens, according to Juan /JFK Jr. originally. Now we're down to 3, from what I understand. One of those Bidens, of course, has been spending his vacation in Lake Tahoe, very sadly. He got booed, though, which is the good news. I think he's on his way to Maui, or I don't know if he's left there already. So I haven't heard the fallout from that, but it's just a meaningless gesture. He had absolutely nothing to say to support or to make sure that the people of Maui were saved or safe. They blocked off the highways. They were under sick instructions, the law enforcement, et cetera. They locked down that place. It was just, what has happened over there is just a tragedy. Okay. And some people have called it a massacre. Maybe that's a good word for it. I have actually focused on the fact that I believe that the people are more or less what we call collateral damage from the point of view of the dark side who did the deed and who did the directed energy weapons that have been shown on video, et cetera, which of course they used during the Paradise, California fires and the fires in Northern California and probably in Southern California, where I was also involved in one of those fires. My area was saved, my area back there in Southern California, as wealthy areas are often saved strangely. And I have to say that I happened to be living in a fairly well, I was just in an apartment, nothing fancy, but I was in the right zone, zip code, because I was right on the edge of that. And my apartment building didn't burn back then. I did make videos about it. We had to evacuate. First, we went to Malibu to evacuate. Then you couldn't be there because that burned. And then we went to Santa Barbara. And it turned out that Santa Barbara had burned a year or two before that. So they were totally welcoming to us. They gave us like free food and wine, and they were just really lovely. So we actually weathered the storm of the fires in a really good way, because psychically I knew that we needed to go north, even though a lot of people went south towards LA, which doesn't even sound intuitively correct on any level, but that's what happened. So okay, so just saying that this situation is crucial, because we have had multiple hits against our country. People don't realize that a lot of the train derailments are sabotage. We have had spills where like in Ohio, these regions are being poisoned. The skies are being poisoned above North America. I mean, it's been constant. But Maui was a real sort of game changer as far as I'm concerned. It was because it was a direct hit on our military, and our strategic defense of the entire United States is pretty much stationed there and centralized there. If you listen to Jamie again. Then you will realize how crucial and what a shot across the bow this was. The response has been zero, as far as we know. Now, we did see, and I put this on my Telegram so you can look over there, you'll see there is some Trump military. They've got an image, an emblem of Trump, and I believe that's the white hat military. So they've got Trump's head on their shoulders and their shoulder patch. So they were on the ground after the Maui hit to some degree. They were being photographed. I don't know what their status is. I don't know how the white hat military is reacting to such a direct hit. I can say that it's probably highly secretive, but I believe they will be responding, and they have responded, maybe even ways that we don't know. So it's kind of interesting. I just rewatched an old movie called Interceptor, and it's all about stopping missiles coming from, in that case, Russia, and showing that the interceptor location of how we stop missiles is located in, it appears to be in that general area of Hawaii, somewhere around the Pacific. It's a vast body of water, obviously, but they're very secretive about the location. But I'm thinking that platform probably does exist somewhere in that area. So whether they got hit, whether there was anything going on with that, I don't know. I do know that everyone said, and this is already out there, everywhere, that the frequency weapons can be programmed. And in this case, they were programmed not to hit anything that was painted blue. And that evidence is out there. I also put it on my Telegram in my articles on the subject. So just to be aware, that's even more information that you're talking about a programmed, premeditated hit on one of the most beautiful places on earth, let alone the United States, and a very favorite vacation spot, of course, and that certain Hollywood celebs' houses were completely untouched, like Oprah's, even though they're very close to this sort of center of the battle. And this shows you this, and the fact that children were left not only unaccounted for, but in a vulnerable situation prior to the hit and have not been found since, indicates that this was a human sacrifice, a child sacrifice, satanic operation. These are the things that concern me. I am not concerned with smart cities in the future. And I don't even think they're that desperate over their smart city idea to have to decimate Maui the way they did. I think that that was a direct hit on our military, and that had a purpose. I also think that it had a lot to do with her name is Jan Halpern Hayes, who I reported on and have written articles about, who came out a week or two ago on a British television show when I was actually, I think, in Britain at the time. And it's not a mainstream super BBC channel. It's more like a runner-up to the mainstream. And apparently she'd been on that show from time to time with this broadcaster. And she said in a very sort of short, concise, very well put together statement, she spoke right in the language of the white hats that we're all familiar with, those of us who follow Q and follow, Trump and Juan and so on, and clearly saying something I've been saying for years, and the white hats have said for years, except they shut up about it for years. So in the beginning, they admitted that they had all the data, that they had been tracking the elections going back to 2020, and that they had all the stuff on blockchain, all the evidence. They also have evidence. I know they've said they have the Dominion servers. They have them from the safe house in Germany, which was a shootout with Gina Haspel, as you may remember. And the Vatican was involved with the Vatican telescope and MI6 apparently. So we've got the old guard of the dark magicians being involved in trying to take over or trying to move us, the entire United States, under the purview of the Charles Schwab New World Order plan for the planet that involves the COVID transhumanism exercises that to connect you to the Borg, to control humanity. And all of this is an AI exercise. This is, all goes back to AI. And that's going to take the fore in the future a great deal. Okay. So even the hits that we may experience may be even orchestrated by AI. And there's a new movie coming out that is called The Creator, which clearly demonstrates this. And there are very nefarious ways in which they can capture the imagination and even the hearts of humanity to get them to work against their own selves, to protect their own selves and their children, et cetera, just as the deep state has been doing for centuries, and big pharma, et cetera, causing you to sell your soul, making you pray every day of your lives, making you, work to live on a planet you own, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the story of, the Earth and the trajectory of this 3D going into 4D dimension. It's important to, in my view, not to be deceived by a lot of the sort of minuscule, petty debris that is out there. A lot of people, sort of, ganging up on one side or another and saying petty things and following stupid lines of reasoning and such. So I think it's very important to understand that there are priorities. Understand your enemy, which is the New World Order, transhuman, Luciferian, satanic agenda. Understand that you are prey, that your children are prey, that you have been prey for centuries. This didn't just happen yesterday, and it didn't even happen just starting with the Nazis. They were just following suit. And that there is a great deal coming forward, other challenges to humanity. Now, on the bright side, as far as I'm concerned, once humanity gets to a certain level of growth, you might say, as a species, then you are given challenges. And that's what the challenges that involve things like AI coming in to take you over, and the Borg, things like, the negative rises in power trying to counter your growth and your awareness and your move into the higher dimensions and awareness and transcendence. So these are tests. These are spiritual tests, and it's important to see them as such, as far as I'm concerned. If you don't, you will kind of lose the thread. Now, I want to get a little more down to earth and specific. I want to say that recently, now I have been questioning the tactics of the white hats. So I love the white hats. I believe in what they're doing. Thank God we have them. I believe in Trump, 107, who is JFK Jr., and their team are very good-hearted, well-meaning warriors. But they have a slew of generals that they follow, and they also have an AI that they follow. They also have been in touch with, I happen to know this for a fact, off-planet or inner Earth civilizations. And so they know exactly what I'm talking about when I bring these things up. What they wanted, the reason they don't talk about them is they want to focus your mind on things like, voting, okay? Because they want to take back our country. And they think, maybe wisely so, with some conjecture, that the way to do that is through the vote. Unfortunately, I'm not so sure that's true, but I appreciate their efforts on that behalf. However, we have kind of run that through for the last 3 years with the White Hats, and especially 107 and his zillions of speeches on the subject. I was most disappointed to see that one of his recent interviews happened to be with Space Shot, who's a good guy, apparently a military guy, where Juan just talked again about, the Brunson case, sending letters, and also, voting and why you should, all that kind of stuff, why we have to secure the vote and all that. The trouble is, a lot of what they do is to pull back, to not reveal the absolute truth. Luckily, Juan did come forward after I said it was a Pearl Harbor type attack on Maui and the Space Force, and I documented it with the good evidence that was unequivocal from Jamie, who, thank God, Dave Hodges brought forward, but didn't seem to get the connection. And maybe he just wasn't talking about it. I don't know these people, even Jaco and, Nino don't seem to want to spit it out. But we have been attacked in a World War II kind of scenario, which would require, in theory, a military response. Where's our military? Hello. Yes, it's split. So part of it is with Milley and those traitors, in essence, who are under, Obama, Biden, whatever you want to call that cabal, the crime family of Biden and son and so on and so forth. So they're fighting for the military industrial complex. They're fighting for the globalists and the New World Order, Luciferian Satanists. And in some cases, they don't even know it. It's unbelievable what people have not put together in their head when it's blatantly obvious to me. And I have been studying this through whistleblower testimony from Above Top Secret for the last 18 plus years. But I think you basically have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to really realize what's at stake here. And what's at stake is our freedom here on planet Earth, and our children's freedom and our livelihood, and how we're going to stay alive in the coming days on planet Earth, and make it through these next centuries with all the threats that we have against our freedoms and against our children. So, okay. So to get back to this, I was very disappointed that Juan sort of backtracked. He didn't say anything, as far as I could tell, in that interview with Space Shot. It was very recent, where he talked more about even the fact that there should be a military response. Why is it? And I hope Juan walks, I hope John watches this. I call him John. I write to him behind the scenes. I'm sure the NSA, which is monitoring all their communications, I'm sure, especially John's, sees everything I write, to John. And maybe John never sees it. I think I get indications that he does, because he suddenly started using my terminology, Pearl Harbor type event, after I did. but he used it very kind of carefully. He used it in a interview with, I think it was Mary Crowley and a couple other things. I did warn him, Chicago, in case you don't know this, not the smartest place to go if you're somebody like John. That is a hotbed of the mob, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, Obama and his cohorts and that whole cabal. So when you are looking at that situation, you should also know that the dark side has put out predictive programming about a hit on Chicago sometime in the future. Now, whether that's changed and they're not going to do it, that'd be great. I happen to have a prophetic dream that they will do something over there. So I'm just warning everybody, hello, that you might want to follow out that predictive programming, that there's a litany of movies and television shows that highlight that. This is what we're looking at in the future. Where's the next hit going to be? It's clear that Juan thinks that there's going to be a Cuban Missile Crisis a la China in Cuba, just like the Cuban Missile Crisis was before. However, and he acts like it's going to be like going up to the level, but not going to be an actual nuclear event, although he seems to allude at other times to some kind of actual nuclear event, but maybe thinking that is more in Ukraine. Ukraine has really gone off the newspapers lately. The Joker, Zelensky, who was, put in place, that actor pawn, I think has worn out his welcome. I think he's gone by the wayside. Who's replacing him? I don't know right now. I'm not up on that news. By the way, if you're a whistleblower or if you have special information, feel free to contact me. I can be reached at Kerry at projectcamelot.tv and welcome people that have real information. I am not very interested in people that think they know everything and have some great philosophical gift to give the world. I think if you think you have that, then you should open your website and get known on your own. I don't want to foster that. So just be aware of that. And what else? I've interviewed, as people will know, thousands and thousands of people over the years. And those are like 2-hour interviews. So I am not dying to interview anyone. But sometimes someone will cross my path or come into the public eye that does look interesting. I'd like to interview Jan Halper Hayes. I think she would be fun to talk to. However, I do know that there's a certain group of the white hats that keep people away from me because I tend to ask the good questions and get the good answers, the real stuff. And they don't want people to know too much. And I object to that. I think you can handle the truth. I think humanity has to handle the truth. I think we are not going to survive without the truth. And so I work every day of my life to make sure this happens. And in that sense, I'm with the white hats. But if they're going to get up there and lie to people, I am not going to go along with it. And I'm going to call them on it. And when they fall short, I let them know. And I think we have to be their conscience. They need to report to the people. In fact, they do report to the people. If Trump and the white hats don't report to the people, then you're just going to get the same old, okay? And so just want to say that thanks everyone for your support over the years and for watching my stuff. And I actually stayed at the Trump Hotel. It was so fun on my way back because I had such a long flight and I was able to cool out there and meet some friends for lunch before I had to fly on from there. So that was really fun. And, Trump is, he's a classy guy and it's the best hotel on the strip. No mad, gambling machines and all that nonsense. So that should tell you something about the sensibility of this man. I had a wonderful Trump dream when I was in Morocco. And basically, coming to me and telling me he wanted to defend and protect me at all costs. And I woke up and realized that it wasn't just me personally. It was basically that he wants to defend and protect the American people. And he wanted that message delivered. So I'm delivering it for him. He was very strong. His aura was very powerful. And he was not backing down in any way, shape, or form. So we need a guy like him to fight for us. And 107, John F. Kennedy Jr., who has risked his life numerous times, as well as his family. A lot of his decisions have to do with protecting his family. I understand that. I may not agree with it because I think that the dark side knows exactly who he is, where he is, and all of that. I don't think this disguise, this absurd disguise that he insists on wearing, is is deceiving anyone. But that's my point of view. I'm not an intel agent, so I'm not an expert in that area. But I can say that, as far as I'm concerned, it's worn out, it's welcome, and it's time for him to come forward now. And we need to hear about how our military is going to stand up, defend the United States. Watching the United States destroy itself is going to work against you guys, okay? In the end, according to my dreams of the future, which I have seen the Chinese invading, and they are now doing so through the southern border, according to my dream of the future, which I had years ago and thought was insane, the words came to me that they let them in. And sure enough, that's what's happened. I have actually seen that. I believe if I interpret, you can always interpret dreams wrong. So you have to be very careful. But I will say that I think Trump is going to win this so-called election. However, we are going to have a civil war. Our country is split and will continue to be split. So him winning the election, I don't think is going to unite the country, frankly. But it might help bring some normies, onto some level of awareness, perhaps, when they see all the wonderful things he will do. So let's see. I hope I'm covering almost everything. I write articles all the time. So if you go to my website and you just look at it, you can't help but see that I just have thousands of not just articles, but also videos and articles. And that, if you're not paying attention, if you're not not subscribing, and you're not educating yourself, quite frankly, other people can interview people. If you haven't seen me interview the person, you probably haven't gotten the truth. And that probably sounds like fairly egotistical or whatever you want to call it, but it's just the truth. And I've been told this time and time again. It's been proven time and time again. So just saying. So I'm going to show you my website, put that on the screen right this minute. So here's my website, projectcamelotportal.com. You can also put in projectcamelot.tv. I do not have projectcamelot.com. So get that in your head. And I'm banned from YouTube, although I have some remnant YouTube channels. But every time I put a new video on one of those remnant channels, they knock it down. So it's kind of a losing battle. I was knocked off there. I think it was March of 2021, if I have the right date. And that's when I went to being a subscriber-based website, although most of my videos that I've ever done over time are free. That means that there's around 900 free videos where you can really educate yourself. And all of my videos are extremely pertinent right now. In fact, more so than ever, because the alien card has suddenly come forward. The military, the UAP meeting that they had with the, oversight committee in Congress recently shows you the military is taking this very seriously. They're keeping things under wraps, but they're still disclosing the real fact that we have never been alone, that we're not alone now, and that we have been invaded. And we have crash retrievals going back 70, 80, 90 years. that Grush, one of the witnesses, talked about an intelligence agent that has been in touch with top officers in intelligence and military who've reported as whistleblowers to him. So don't overlook the fact that we are moving quickly into a very incredible future. I'm actually happy to do that. I've been sick of people not knowing anything. You know, it's kind of lonely at the top, as they say, and it's been very hard to have conversations with people who just have no clue. So I have a book here. It's called Rebel Gene. I encourage you to read it. I tried to pack a lot of stuff into that book so that people could kind of use it as a handbook for these times. I'll bring you back to my website for a second here. And I just want to say that if you support us, it's a big $3 a month. I ask you, could it be any cheaper? And I have people who actually want their $3 back because they changed their mind or some such nonsense. I mean, seriously, the pettiness of people is just insane. But thank God I have actual subscribers that understand the body of work I have put out there. And I just want to say that I would appreciate if you will consider subscribing. And there's a nice thing coming to the fore about subscribing. And by the way, these are great products. I use them myself. I've interviewed the principals on all of these things and highly recommend them. Divinia Water as well. And that's my book. This is a cybersecurity guy who helped rescue Camelot from some very serious hits in the past. So my Awake and Aware 2023 footage is going to be available. If you join my website, you will get it for free. If you don't, you will purchase it as a package or individually by video. So just to be aware of that. I've got so much stuff packed on just the front page that it's kind of insane. But I have something called Classic Camelot. So if you haven't really been up to speed, you need to watch all of these videos and get up to speed. And it will not hurt. It will definitely help you. And you will learn a tremendous amount. And here is also Captain Mark Richards. All of Mark Richards' videos are free. There are 12 of them. I call them Total Recall. I'm putting them into a book. So if you only want to subscribe monthly, it's $5. Quarterly, it's $4. And yearly, it's $3 a month. $3 big a month. And then you get everything that I've ever done and all the stuff I'm doing now, as well as access to all of the conference footage that I've done. And I do conferences, like I say, every year. And so you can, let me go to that to show you. Like this is 2022. If you go there and you scroll down, you'll see there's 2022, 2021. So I think it was 2020 that I didn't actually managed to come across the pond, as they call it. But anyway, it goes on and on and on. So these are amazing conferences, and the footage is just stellar, really historical, record-breaking testimonies from whistleblowers around the world. What can I say? Never be wasting your time on Project Camelot. And just want to say that as you scroll down here, I have some books like from Cyrus Parsa, all about artificial intelligence. I've interviewed him several times. He went dark. He was attacked by the aliens for coming forward with all the information that he did about COVID and how it was linking you to the Borg, etc. He and I had him on my show numerous times. I have met him in person. He's a good guy, good-hearted man. Unfortunately, has seemed to have disappeared from the scene. The Voyager books, I've interviewed Ashiana Dean. I traveled with her to India. Highly recommend both Voyager books. They're now both available as ebooks. If you click on these ads, you'll see them. You can buy them for like $20 each. They're fabulous and really give you a better history of humanity than the Bible ever could. And it just goes on from there. So just want to say thank you very much for for being here and for watching and listening. And thanks for joining me for this video blog. Take care. Bye-bye.